with Joel Klatt, but eagerly. Last week, you dropped a bombshell that everybody reacted to when you said that Deion Sanders had a, quote, very, very, very good offer in front of him that for some reason he had not signed. Well, all this stuff going on with the Cowboys, Joel, is this the reason why?
Possibly. I think that it has more to do with just an overall negotiation between the two parties in terms of overall, package that doesn't relate specifically to Deion. Assistant pool, support through NIL, maybe facilities. I think these are all conversations that end up taking place. I try to stay out of it as much as I can. I think if I had to handicap it right now, I would expect him to stay in Boulder. I've continued to say this, guys. I don't see the fit in the NFL. It might be flattering. It might be something that helps in negotiations, possibly. But I don't think he is a fit in the NFL. I think that the fit is much better in Boulder, and that's why I think he's going to stay.
Joel, and Deion came out. He said, hey, okay, yeah, I would coach in the NFL if I could coach my sons, right? Dallas picks 12th, and they just gave Dak a huge contract. That doesn't seem like a place that would be a good fit for him and Shador to go to. So that, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If he wants to go to the NFL and coach his sons, I don't know the avenue or the path for Shador to end up with the Cowboys.
Well, and candidly, as you know, that can change so quickly in the NFL in terms of your personnel and your roster. And so that desire, while probably noble, I don't think is very realistic. Not only because of draft position, but just all the other factors when it comes to roster building in the National Football League. One thing I would say is even from a financial matter, I think being a good fit at a university and in college is better than going to the National Football League. If you go, okay, fine. Let's say you make even, I don't know, $5-6 million more with the Dallas Cowboys. Great. And then Jerry's going to tire of you in 2.5 years because he hasn't built an adequate roster to win in the playoffs, and he hasn't done so since the early 90s. So you go do that for 2 or 3 years, and that's a lot of money, and good for you. You could be a good fit at Colorado for a decade. And I think certainly people around Denver and Boulder and the program at Colorado would say, yeah, that's something that we would desire, and we could win a few league championships and make a few playoff appearances, and we've won a Heisman Trophy. And, you make, $8 to $10 million a year at Colorado or more because of the loopholes as far as what Deion can do even outside of his main contract. And you're talking about a significantly higher sum of money if that's what it's all about. Now, he has said it's not about money, but I'm just looking at this from a monetary standpoint, from a career position. I think it would be better to be the coach at Colorado than for the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe not in the immediate prestige, but when you actually look at it from a long-term sustainability standpoint and even a financial standpoint in the long run, I think being in college is better if you're in the right fit.
Yeah, Joel, this whole Deion Jerry thing, my take on it, I'll be curious to get yours, is that you got two people who know each other, who are friends, who are kind of mutually using each other for their own benefit. Deion to use the Cowboys as a negotiating tool to perhaps get some of those things that you just laid out from CU. And for Jerry, it's, Jerry's a showman. Jerry's always about that next opportunity to market the Cowboys. And, coming off a really bad season and the way he did Mike McCarthy dirty, maybe the perception that, hey, this Cowboys job is still coveted. It's still a big deal. So both guys are using the other.
By the way, what name puts you at the top of the news cycle just for talking to him?
Correct.
And that's what, Jerry does his own radio show. What other owner does his own radio show? He wants the Cowboys to be front and center. He's probably he's a genius marketer more so than he is a genius owner. If you want to put it that perspective, at least from a winning standpoint and a competitive standpoint. But yeah, I think that you're exactly right, Mike. That's one of the smarter things you've ever said. Well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you. Appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. Go ahead, Sting.
Good to have you on. Thank you so much. And I would just say this, like, one thing I know about Jerry is he's going to appoint a head coach. He's not going to empower a head coach. And, you know, you can say what you want about Deion, but Deion is in charge of the Colorado Buffaloes. That dude has, some clout about the way he operates. Do you think he would ever put himself in a situation where he's coaching and he's not actually in charge of the organization? Because Jerry ain't giving that up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that you touch on a really important piece of the fit from a Colorado standpoint, Stink. And I've said this before on your show, but I look at this from the standpoint of fit. And Deion has been given the keys to Colorado. He's a better fit at Colorado than he is even at another college, because tradition can get in the way and expectations from fan bases can get in the way, not from a competitive standpoint, but just from like what type of guy are you? What type of traditions do you buy into versus not buy into from our past? And this is a program that had sunk to the levels where he got carte blanche in terms of turn us into whatever you envision. He does not have that opportunity with the Dallas Cowboys. He doesn't. Bill Parcells couldn't work, for Jerry Jones. The most successful coach in Cowboys history, at least in Jerry Jones's history, he fired and ran off and couldn't get along with Jimmy Johnson. After winning 2 Super Bowls, appointed a coach and won with a great roster, but that roster probably should have won even more. So as much as they we love each other and we're friends and this could work, no. Deion as the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys is oil and water. And for all of those reasons, this is why I anticipate him staying in Boulder. He's great in Boulder. We love him in Boulder. He can be completely authentically himself. He has turned Colorado into his image, which is the only way to allow a coach to be successful. If you're heavy-handed and micromanaging and not allowing a coach to be authentically himself, then there's no way that he's going to have the amount of success that you want him to. And so, all of that stuff is true. And it's true regardless of the teams that we're talking about.
Visiting with Joel Klatt. He is presented by Dave & Buster's in Denver.
Joel, now that the season's over for the Broncos, what are your thoughts on the season, how it ended, Bo Nix, Sean Payton?
Great first step. And now you have to build. And so this is one of the most vital off seasons that Denver has had in a long time, because it is not starting from scratch. They have finally laid a foundation that has some sustainability, maybe even more than sustainability, and maybe even more than a foundation. And so now you've got to go build the roster and continue to look at the areas of the team that are going to make you sound, because I always talk about championship windows. And, yeah, I hope Bo develops into a player that can win a championship in his second and third contract. But, boy, you got a great window when you've got a really good quarterback that you think can win at the top level, and he's in a rookie deal. You got a real shot to go build a roster that can actually compete at the top end of the National Football League. And so when I look at Denver, they are woefully short at the line of scrimmage. They need a defense that's going to be more consistent. They need a run game that's going to be more consistent. And if they can get those foundational pieces, front to back, inside out, then they've got something. And I think they could make a real push within, kind of a 2, 3, 4 year span.
From that rebuilding standpoint, Joel, where would you go first? What would be your first order of business if you ran the Broncos organization?
Line of scrimmage. They would have to be better at the line of scrimmage. You would have to have a better opportunity to control P&10 base down. I think that you would have to have a much better interior of the defense. I think that linebacker is an issue for them. I think that defensive tackle is an issue for them. And so those are the areas that I would look at. I tell you what I wouldn't look at, wide receiver. I know that everyone's going to want to look at wide receiver, and we got to get him weapons and we got to get him toys, and I just totally disagree. I think situationally you can improve a quarterback by the circumstances that you put him in versus continuing to put him in poor circumstances in obvious passing situations and having to throw the ball because you have to, and then you have to say, like, well, yeah, but we got this fast guy out there. I mean, look at all the great wide receivers in the National Football League. And it's like, there isn't one. Sorry, this is just the case. There isn't one where you can say, like, man, that team is great because of that guy. There's not one.
So the Broncos picking at 20th in the draft. Would you be open to taking a running back or tight end?
I would be. I do think that we're finding a resurgent running back kind of era and in the NFL. I love the tight end or a slot player that can control the middle of the field. It's my belief that both of those positions, that even if you're extending it to kind of a slot middle of the field control player, I don't think that you have to reach in the first round. I would love to see Denver trade out. I would love to see them not take a first-round player, get more picks, and really dive into the idea of becoming younger, growing the depth, and trying to find those guys, in the middle rounds that can give you what I would consider to be like a top-end roster overall.
Joel, the college football playoff had a couple good semifinal games, national championship game on Monday night. How do you see this thing playing out on Monday night? And what are your overall thoughts right now on how the playoffs have gone in the first year?
Well, the powers that be in college football can't get out of their own way. Extending it into the divisional weekend of the NFL playoffs is asinine. Playing our championship game on a Monday night is asinine. Having to avoid the wild card weekend, so playing your semifinal games on a Thursday and Friday night is asinine. So the structure of the playoff has been wildly disappointing. Last week's semifinal game should have been 25 to 30 million viewers minimum. And it wasn't. It was 17 million for the Penn State game, Notre Dame, and it was just over 20 million for Ohio State. That's not enough for what this should be. They needed more than one network, but more so it needs a total change from a calendar standpoint. I'm not even talking about the games. The games were great. The players and the coaches and the programs and the pageantry and the tradition and the bands, they all showed up. We play in too many neutral sites. We got to get away from these stupid bowl venues for our playoff. We're extending the season far too long. January 20th to play a national championship game in college football is stupid. That way we have to then roster build before the season actually ends. It's absolutely dumb. So we've got to fix the calendar by moving the championship game closer to the regular season. I think we should try to end it by January 1st. Some people think that that's too early. Let's just say, for sake of argument, you could play the semifinals on January 1st. All right. And you would get a much better number from a rating standpoint on January 1st than you would on some random, Thursday and Friday night. Then you could dip just barely into the NFL playoffs, and you can play your championship game on wild card weekend. And if you played it on wild card weekend, then this is exactly how I would do it, is that we've already got the 2-3 – right, wait, didn't they play 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, and then 1 game on Monday? Isn't that how we did it?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's how the 6 games played out. Well, I would just have a triple header on Saturday where you got 2 NFL games early and then the primetime game is the national championship game. So you'd shove all the football fans in your country to your national championship game. You could probably garner a 30, 35, 40 million viewer game there, but we're not going to have that because we're going to play it on a Monday night like a bunch of idiots because we can't get out of our own way. And they're going to barely get 24 million people to watch it. So congratulations to everybody. Well done.
How do you handicap the game, though?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, this is the good part. This is the good part of it, right? Yeah.
I do love this game. I think that Notre Dame has to be basically the New England Patriots to the Ohio State St. Louis Rams. They've got to grab them. They've got to make it a street fight. They've got to make them uncomfortable. They've got to force them into something that they don't want to do, which is run the ball on first down. So if I'm Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, I'm daring Ohio State to run the football on first down, daring them, because please don't throw it to your talented wide receivers on the outside. It is a matchup that I just don't think is favorable for Notre Dame. They've had a really good run of favorable matchups because both the teams that they just played in the playoffs, and Georgia and Penn State, those two teams, their weakest area on the offensive side was their wide receivers, whereas Notre Dame is fairly decent in the secondary. So they had the advantage there where they could control the game with their defense. They're not going to have that same advantage with Ohio State. It's a bad matchup for Notre Dame. I think that the number is 8 right now, and I would take the Buckeyes and cover the points.
Joel, great work. Love it. Love it. You're on fire today. So great work, and we'll do it all again next week. Thanks, pal.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good day.
Joel Klatt, presented by Dave & Buster's in Denver, your ultimate destination for football all season long. Coming up next, Buff fans, did Joel's words about Deion make you